John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Welcome guys, Andre Hodge, Impotent Potential Healing, Servant of Truth. And if you listen to the previous release where I included the clip of the Truth Frequency clip from a little while back, I had been calling myself Crocodile Star-Lord, Wolverine, Aladdin, Dundee, because if you've only just recently sort of found me and stuff, I was saying that and calling out, like making a name for myself, and not being how most of humanity sees ourselves, as this tiny, meek, insignificant waram, like in Braveheart. I was giving myself a massive name to owning my power, right? So if that was a bit weird for you, that's the reason why, and I've said that in the past, because too often do we self-impose limits on ourselves. And if you found me, and this might be the first video you ever see of me, it's a really big one and a significant one for me. So I appreciate your courage to explore and expand, and to me to be a part of that journey. This is going to be a really massive one, and it's a privilege to offer what I offer here. I feel I've always been very aligned to what I consider the truth, and I've talked a lot about that, and the foundation that a solid understanding of things allows for the flourishment, the growth, all that sort of stuff. So see, awareness is a metaphor of growth, and if you've got a foundation of the accurate data to launch from, everything is easy. So I made some really big calls in this, alright? So discern the shit out of me, alright? Hold my feet to the fire and see what happens. I don't aim to be perfect. I just aim to be the best I can. And we're all in this box, literally. So think about that with a Metatron square, alright? This is outside the box thinking, alright? So I've got a main body, and I've just decided to add a bit more to it, because I feel this will be a really huge thing for a lot of people to actually hear what I share a bit later. And I just want to set you up for it. So I might have done a different image as well to display this, and it's related to Stranger Things and Upside Down world that was related to as a metaphor. And I recently, obviously that series is pretty cool. I've been going back and watching old stuff, including I watched the Constantine movie, which is all about a Armageddon sort of scenario and stuff like that. And I've sort of appreciated, and as I've offered in the previous one, something called the Phantom Matrix, which is like a negative universe which is feeding itself off our universe, and it doesn't have a like a source origin of nourishment that it requires this, and a lot of species are being dragged into it and stuff like that. So I don't want to get into too much about that, but I'm seeing sort of the metaphor of sort of teachings that have come through, and even in Lord of the Rings, okay, with Mordor, Metatron, and Saruman, the compromised allied to Mordor, so Thoth, alright, and he creates the orcs as weaponized species, which, if you know the true history, Thoth and Enoch were responsible for creating the skin suit for the invaders sort of thing, to have all the codes, and that was used as a Trojan horse to get into the Iani massacre and stuff, 22,326 BC. So what I feel, right, the metaphor of, say, if you feel aligned to this and this feels your truth, and this one will probably unpack a lot, and I'll get into that, alright? And the metaphor I felt, and I'll try and get this, if it has a copyright issue, then I'll just have to do images, but if you've ever watched the Star Wars movie Rogue One, which was all about stealing the codes to the Death Star, alright? And to me, it's like one of the best Star Wars movies that have ever been, alright? The intensity and it was like the Star Wars movie we've always wanted, alright? So I highly recommend going out and watching that. And the end sort of finale is about where there's this big battle about to upload the data relative to the Death Star to get it, and to go off and like process the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of it. And there was the end finale scene that really lines up well with Star Wars, where Darth Vader is on the warpath, and he knows what's unfolding, and he goes off and goes to the opposition ship to go and try and get access to the data download that they'd managed to get off the planet, right? In this really risky operation that a lot lost their lives for. And there's this really intense, like quite horrific scene where Darth Vader, the evil Jedi, uses all his power and might to overcome those resistance to it, and they just get annihilated, but they just get it to the ship and get away. And the metaphor I'm getting with that is, you know, if you're actually truly aligned with the Hollow Earth Guardians and are an indigo, because the indigo DNA is a expression of the Guardians with the codes to deal with the control rooms and the Stargates and stuff, and they've been hunted, which I'll get into, and there's a constant reseeding of that going on. It's nothing to do with the off-world galactic sort of bullshit that goes on in the spiritual teaching, spiritual realms. It's the pure alignment to Earth and stuff. And so if you're aligned to that and you are that, then through the soul, through our past lives, through the journey, and our ancestors, right? The metaphor for me is that they've gone through that to just get us to this point now, to have this potential, to be aware in this time after what happens and I describe. So I'm seeing that metaphor of that's who we are, right? And that's what our ancestors and our spirit teams and our guardians on other dimensions and levels have gone to for us to be here now, right? So I do this in honor to that whatever and whoever have gone through whatever craziness that they've gone through to get to this point. Some things that I have never shared is like, I'll do this really quick. When I was 2, my brother is 2 years younger. So my father, in this apartment near a highway, my mother was in the hospital due to have my brother, and so I was just staying with my father, and my father was trying to keep me up late at night so I'd sleep in, so he could sleep in and stuff. And then one morning, because I was worried about my mother as a 2-year-old, alright, this is funny, like I obviously got out of my cot somehow, alright, I went to the front door and unlocked it, and I pulled a big couch over to the door, and I got up on the couch like a seat, and I unlocked the door and I went out onto the main highway looking for my mum, going the pathway to the shops that we would go to as a 2-year-old. And my father got a rude awakening one morning when I think like neighbours and the police came looking and like wondering if this is your child, and got a real shock, you know. But what happened after that is between 2 and 5, I had to move 15 times, and I know that my father was attacked, right? Like all the drug and criminality of the false dream time period goes after people and stuff, right? And I've talked about that. And so my father was targeted. He was guardian of me, and every now and then we had to relocate, and I know that was for my protection. And then my parents split up and we were anchored in one spot, and yeah, I had a lot of bedwetting as a child, because it was either abductions or hauntings sort of shit to attack me and do all that sort of shit, alright? So my guess is, well, it's not a guess, it's probably you've been through it too, alright, to be here, because there aren't that many that are going to be able to handle this sort of stuff, right? So I'm having to really lay low. I've got a lot of people bubbling up wanting to entangle with me. I'm doing this a few days, but obviously before the release. But I'm not engaging or interacting with anyone with this stuff. I've been on very, very heightened guard, and I had to change Skype accounts in the past and stuff, because what would happen, there would be this rhythmic effort for people to all get in my field, and I knew what they were doing. They're wanting to get clear or get my codes and stuff, and I know that, and that's why I changed my accounts and stuff like that, so people can get to me. And I've defined my boundaries and my protocol of vetting, alright? There's only 2 ways, via session or via my teachings, alright? The reason why I have that channel is to be ready for whatever shit's gonna come, alright? So when I'm in healer mode, nothing can fuck with me, alright? So all you people out there that think that you've got shit that you can mess with me, alright? I'll say this again. I did Infinite Potential Healing Part 3, Defeat the Healer, alright? Where the shit going on in people justify their staying where they're at to not get over it, okay? So potentially if you feel like you're gonna cause me shit, alright? If you're worried about going the healing path, it's like you got programs of self-defeat and shit probably running you that doesn't want you to be free, okay? So and then I did Infinite Potential Healing Part 5, where I expressed that you can't really fuck with me in like healer mode, alright? I've dealt with the Vatican, I've dealt with recycling species off-world. I mentioned in the last video in Galactic Special Force Part 5, where we fucking save planets, alright? And so over all the swearing, alright, I'm pretty passionate in this one, and it's because it's freaking crazy, alright? So there's a parental warning with this one. I let it rip a bit, but I let it rip because it's my passion and my sheer staggering fucking comprehension of the violation that's gone on to us, alright? So a lot of polarity is probably going to come to me with this. A lot of people are probably not going to be able to even approach it. They're going to like have those programs of self-defeat, alright? So just watch yourself. If you shut down, you can't hear it. You know, you have to listen to it many times. Because what this will do, alright, this is my service to Earth and the Hollow Earth Guardians and humanity is, I'm not here to hook you into my shit. I'm here to have you standing side by side with me as a Galactic Special Forces ASAP, alright? And when you hear this, alright, my attitude is when you get the truth codes for unencrypting the enigma in your DNA that's been holographic inserted to block you from your truth, alright? Perhaps it's been there for security. Perhaps it's been there because it's a misguided effort to suppress you as being done, alright? But my attitude is when you hear the concepts of what are being done and you get the mechanics, and I'm doing it quite simply, alright? To get to the point, to understand the mechanics that can go on, alright? Is I feel very strongly it will decrypt the stuff in you and you'll have this big purge of stuff and you'll get in alignment with your truth, and all that old shit can get shed. All the stuff that's done here can get shed, alright? You can do it yourself. I do my healings and I create, like I said, how many hours I do it, I create an energy field that's conducive to that on many respects, alright? But yeah, my attitude is we can do it ourselves, alright? But it's courageous to seek assistance and help and go through that rite of passage that I said in Infinite Potential Part 5. I strongly recommend you go watch that, alright? Measure yourself with sort of this, alright? So see, a lot of people might be triggered by me and stuff and all sorts of levels, especially different energies, and I'm not interested in all that, right? That's your journey. You have to observe yourself. I'm not doing anything other than sharing data that might affect you. So you need to observe yourself. It's no one's responsible for yourself other than like what happens to you based on information other than yourself, alright? So just really observe it. It might be really interesting, alright? This is going to be a wild ride, alright? And there's a couple of concepts I introduce, and one is the sympathetic resonance to the falsehood, alright? So I talk about the construct of the spiritual alternate community and stuff, right? And the mechanics of us to gravitate to them, and just really appreciate that when you observe society. I mean, you've all probably got this observational sort of thing of how and why and what. This might be the understanding to that, and you get that, oh, okay. And the other thing is invasion politics, alright? Think about a lot what we're advised to do with our bodies and the world and the environment and all that sort of shit, alright? I share something at the end, some really cool things at the end, so I hope you stick around to, you know, put a lot of effort into this and this whole amplifying the echoes of your soul's ancient truth, because this might be the one that really you've been waiting for, alright? So I thank you for finding me. I thank you for getting through all the stuff with me and that, and I really hope you get a lot from this, because I think it's like I talked about the Battle of El Alamein in World War II, where the Aussies and the British and all that held back Rommel. And what Rommel didn't know and the Allies had is that they actually had the crack for the Enigma to work out what the fuck was going on. And so that's where they flipped it all back. And I feel, alright, on some level, maybe we're the El Alamein for the universe of what's gone on. And so the rest of the universe will be watching us, alright, as we finally push back these freaking mega multi-dimensional bullies that have done the most disgusting shit, alright? And we've enjoyed it. And so we are the rogue ones, alright? So have the courage to contemplate a lot here and to see how you are at the end. And I'm going to do a bit of an outro after. Alright, so I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy, guys. Peace. The vastness of the Metatron sort of thing is so absolute, alright? This is the false spiritual teachings versus the actual truth, alright? And this might be very disarming, is that, say, the mark of the beast in another term is the flower of life and seed of life. And what you probably should do is put anti on the front of it, because it's all feeding the phantom matrix, alright? So you see in the spiritual industry and stuff how often these sacred geometry symbols are used, and people have them in tattoos and all sorts of shit on them, alright? It's like mark of the beast, and you're feeding your energy to it, alright? For the control of earth and all that sort of shit. So there's one perspective, like in the spiritual community, that's like, it's synchronistic, it's micro and macro. I see it on, you know, the gestation of galaxies or solar systems or planets and stuff, and like when there's conception going on, it's like the flower of life is in the separation of the cells relative to conception and stuff. What I'm wanting to invite you to even contemplate is that the underlying frequency of our planet, alright, is permeated with the Metatron frequencies to actually gestate that sacred geometry through everything, alright? So you consider our DNA skin suits that we've got have a foundation of that Metatron sort of flower and seed of life sort of geometry permeating all through us, alright? So the way I see it is, it's already limited us before we even know, because everything permeates that frequency on a higher dimensional level than we can even comprehend, alright? And so we embody it by our existence here at this time, alright? So that's, we don't even know, alright? Apart from some super psychics and access to these sort of non-Akashic records, the true records, alright? Because I'm going to get into the Akashic records later, alright? From my perspective, is that we don't even know what our body should look like or anything. Like, this lady's perspective is we should be a lot taller and a lot more stronger and all these sort of things and stuff, and the region and the particular like stepping down sort of thing. Like, I've got the Iani massacre, I think it was about 22,326 BC. Just let me check. Geez, I'm good. Yep, 22,326 BC. That's when the Iani massacre happened. But what I'm getting into is this focus of this tiny little section here, alright? And what I'm wanting to do is like actually focus on the 3470 BC. It's called the Babylon massacre. It's what the Tower of Babel is related to, and it was like a very massive attack on our DNA, memory wipe and stuff like that, that affected our bodies very badly. We went from living 800 to 1,000 years to 80 years sort of thing. So it set us up for this era, alright? So what I'm going to do is go to the next image. This is the image I want to talk about, alright? But what I'm going to quickly do is show the other image relative to what I showed in the previous Amplify the Echoes of Our Soul's Ancient Truth Part 2, alright? So this is one I showed, alright? This is like the big timeline up the top, 250 to 150 billion years and stuff. And there was a draconian attack 208,216 BC that lowered us from 12D to 10D, which set the surface up for where we're at now, because we didn't have founder protection and stuff, and we were vulnerable. And so the control was gained about 25,000 BC, which was when the Ayani massacre. I spoke about the metaphor of Asgard, and Loki infiltrating and allowing the stuff in and all that happened. And so that was just prior to the last stellar activation cycle, which was managed to be prevented, alright? And so it was all setting up for now, alright? And the era, like the last 20 years that we've sort of been through, alright? And so the invasion plan, which I'm going to get into a bit more detail, when I'm getting into they always knew that we were going to bubble up, and then there was a seeding of the false sort of stuff, alright? So I'm just going to go back to that other image. So if I just say a stellar activation cycle happens about 25,000 years, ironically a bit equal with the precession of the equinox, which is the Mayan sort of teachings and stuff, alright? So let's just say every 25,000 years, and that attack happened 208,216 BC, alright? Which made us vulnerable, stepped us down from 12D to 10D. It prevented the foundation beings from being able to protect us, and it's all just been step down, step down, step down, alright? And so we're in this era where the control was gained absolutely on the surface after all this sort of effort, alright? So imagine what the true history is like. It's pretty epic, alright? And so there was always going to be this consciousness bubble up, alright? And that's the SAC, Hollow Earth, Guardian sort of stuff, which the majority were hijacked, okay? Alright? So what I'm getting into, how that hijacking sort of happened, alright? And what's been inserted into us and all this sort of shit to actually bring this about, okay? So I'm just going to show you this. This is a close-up of it, and I've got a bit more of a detailed one. Alright, but let's just say the last 120 years, alright, which was known was going to be set up for. And things like channeling were set up. Like I mentioned, my meditation teacher, who was like into spirituality since the 1940s and stuff, and all the meditation group and stuff, which were lovely people and stuff, but I'm accepting that the possibility is a lot was not accurate, and that's cool, right? And I'm just drawing, say if this is a scala, the volume of people, right? Perhaps the majority go that way, right? For good reason, and I'm getting into it, right? But then, in spite of that, there's still a small fraction that got into the pure, what I'm sort of aligned with now, alright? And I'm choosing to be aligned with it because I'm seeing from the leadership perspective it's the most vulnerability sort of aspect. And I've done probably more than most people in research and all that combined, plus involvement in creations and stuff. And this is what I'm seeing is the reality. And there are other teachers out there that have done it for a lot longer, but I've been on an undercover mission, plus I've been doing epic grid work and stuff related to this. So I come from a different sort of in the field credentials than most, alright? And this particular recording is an effort to continue that and to come out the other side and have you comprehend and contemplate what I'm saying, alright? Because this might be another big leg up on things, alright? So that was a pretty a very simple first part of the big step down sort of thing. Alright, so now I'm going to get into the second part and get a bit more focused on that region that I was showing you. And it's called the Luciferian Covenant. Alright, and if I show you this image, so I've gone from the big Metatron one, which is not to scale or anything, but it's just to give you an idea of the continual stepping down of things, to this one. and it's a bit windy, so bear with me. I'll probably put this as an image on my actual release for you to read and stuff and have some time. But after the Aini massacre and all that sort of stuff, and then again beyond this, stepping down to this, alright, I'm just getting to the point of that particular 3470 BC sort of Babylon massacre, alright, which this is about. So at 9560 BC, like 12,000 years ago roughly, the plan for the implementation for now, knowing that they had control of the surface, knowing that they just come out of sort of a past stellar activation cycle, setting up for this one, because this was pretty much an ultimate showdown sort of thing, to once and for all, after a very big scalar time, get the access to the stargates and Hollow Earth here, alright? And Hollow Earth and us on the surface have managed to hold on, alright? Backs against the wall. This is when the plan was formulated to do that, and the methodic of things that happened to gradually erode us down to that grain of sand against the sun sort of stepping down image I had relative to Metatron on it, right? So straight after they had a flood, right? That's like the Noah flood. Enoch was Noah, alright, from this teacher's perspective, and Enoch sort of failed humanity because Enoch was an insider, but Enoch's been a fence sitter and he'll go with sort of whatever best for him. And so what she said was he sort of failed the angelic humanity like indigos because he didn't let them know what the plan was. He let his people know and got them to safety, but he didn't let all of Earth know to prevent it and the damage it had caused. So it's a bit of a metaphor of that being, alright? He goes into good and bad, whatever suits him and stuff, alright? A bit like Thoth did, but Thoth is like more pathological, and Enoch is more, yeah, I'm not going to get into it too much more than that, but that's a part of the history and stuff. So the Noah's flood is relative to a weaponized like effort to eliminate the surface and stuff caused by the Luciferian covenant plan to set us up for now, alright? But here, there's a lot of other stuff that happened, but there was that 5900 BC, right? The Centurion War, which was basically the Mahabharata, if I can say that right. Mahabharata, right? And I've got the pushback there is because there was an enormous risk that everything would be lost then. And what this teacher says is the blue beings that came out were from like Hollow Earth, and they pushed back and defeated it to prevent it from being totally taken over then, alright? But then there was one of the notable things, alright, and this is where I'm getting into the false teachings and stuff, is Thoth started the Mayan sort of region, sort of invasion, sort of taking over and hijacking them and stuff, and the Aztecs, in this teacher's perspective, wasn't a true species or a hijacked species, that all the sacrifice and all that sort of shit is Kundalini energy harvesting, alright? And so Thoth was the instigator, and although it started at like 3650 BC, it went through to the more modern like 1500s and stuff like that, and that's where I'm saying the 2012 Mayan calendar false paradox sort of teachings to seed the reality, to distract us from the SAC sort of stellar activation cycle, like Hollow Earth Guardian sort of things that the majority would bubble up to and want to get into the consciousness sort of stream, if that makes sense. Alright? So that was a significant point. But then at 3470 BC was the main thing, right? Pretty horrific. And this is the Summa sort of, and it was done by three sort of factions, including Anunnaki, the Galactic Federation. So can't trust any of those galactic political organizations that have a vested interest here. And maybe Max still, alright? you got to work on them, dude, alright? And what I'm going to be warning is, like, I did it in a post a while back when I did my last pranic healing, but any misguided fucking organizations related to that, like, I'm going to enjoy doing my pranic healings, let me just say that, alright? So what I sort of said is the positive political galactic organizations, you need to back off, alright? And you need to let us see who is still involved here, to know who's compromised, that has no interest in the benefit on the surface and is totally involved in the taking down of Earth into the Phantom Matrix to get access to the universal stargates, alright? In all saying this, there is a defense mechanism in it all, and it's a pointless exercise, but they got to do it, alright? So yeah, just take on board all that. And so you guys out there that are watching this, that are into all those sort of stuff, you watch what happens and stuff, alright? I'm sure a lot of these people are involved in that are going to have a bad day, alright? Because this shit is unacceptable, alright? This history is all hidden, and remember, the history is written by the winners, alright? But that's why they want to take down the true history that's in Hollow Earth and stuff, and it's layered with the false Akashic records, Akasha, Bulla, Shitta records, alright, to obfuscate it all and stuff. And it's very impressive what's been done. It's like, well done, guys. But that's where I get to the end, and it's going to be quite funny, but it's going to be worth it, alright? So if you can read a lot of that stuff and pause it, and I might put the image up and stuff and pause it and stuff. There's a Pleiadian Nibiru, the Galactic Federation, and an Anunnaki sort of stream that was involved, alright? And there was actually a Draco. I think that all these negative factions, they fight against each other. But then there was also, I believe, there was an Anunnaki rebellion sort of thing. And so, like, the worker sort of thing, and I don't want to quote anything that's ever been out there and stuff. I don't think this is anything related to anyone, right? There was an actual rebellion of even some aspects of their own thing, saying this is fucked up, alright? And so what they did is they did this using the APIN network that I talked about in the last one. They did this magnetic reset, alright? So they did this reset, and it just really, really fucked up human, like, the surface DNA, right? It wiped everyone's memory. It, going from like 12 strands or higher, it reduced us to like 2, maybe 4 strands. So we lost a lot of our abilities and memories and stuff. And so what I've worked out recently is just like tinnitus that we suffer from. That's a result of this attack. Right? We've lost a lot of our abilities in our DNA, when we may have on the soul level the ability to, and in our DNA, in unaccessible form, the technology to access those high frequency sort of stuff, right? So that's what I've put together with tinnitus. It's a result of this attack, alright? So if you've had tinnitus and the ear ringing and stuff, you've probably got stuff in your DNA, in the skin suit that you've got, that's just unaccessible based on this, that hasn't been repaired yet. And I'm not saying it doesn't have a solution. I offer my technology healings and all that, alright? Potentially has that solution. I've had people with that sort of issue and stuff. But yeah, like, it reduced us from 800 years to 80 and stuff. It really disarmed some of our organs in our body and that. It gave us race amnesia at the DNA level, alright? But it's called the Babylon Massacre because it just scrambled us. You imagine if you just have amnesia and you don't know anything one day. You lost everything. And it's very interesting. I actually rewatched it, but 2021 there was a movie on Netflix called Awake, and it was like, all of a sudden all the electrical devices just failed. All the satellites were falling out of the sky, and humanity lost the ability to sleep, alright? It's really cool. And what they found was the reset is have a death experience, alright, which is ironic to what I said I went through to reset me, alright, to get to this point, okay? But yeah, it's a very interesting movie, and you see the anarchy that results in the people's inability to sleep and stuff like that, and yeah, it's quite interesting. It's worth revisiting with that, alright, because maybe you get a bit of a reaction to it, if that makes sense, okay? In your body, a visceral reaction based on an experience relative to what I'm linking up here, okay? So yeah, if I just put it down the bottom, this is what was contorted into the Tower of Babel in the false teachings and stuff. It's the Babylon massacre. It's called the Tower of Babel, alright? And people think it's money and all this sort of shit. You know what I mean? But it's related to the memory wipe that set us up for now, alright? And I'm going to get into it in more detail, okay? So I've got this with a lot of writing and stuff, and I might do a screenshot and put it up with a bit of a pause and stuff. I was trying to formulate all this in my mind, how to say it, because it's a lot of information. And like I said, I got the real heavy attack a few days ago that was a pretty good one. Alright, it took me 10 hours of healing to repair myself and put myself back together. But yeah, this is a pretty big release because I'm getting to some serious points. Alright, so I'm just going to read some of it. The DNA template repair and implementation from the Babylon massacre in 3470 BC. A purpose of it was to allow the progressive infiltration of spiritual and political society. Alright, if we're white, we have no direction or no reference or anything, then the society is totally vulnerable to infiltration and stuff. We don't even know that there's an incarnation war and stuff like that. Alright, so it was the source of the distorted patriarchal war god spiritual teachings, and allowed for things like channeling today. Alright, New Age and UFO movements and stuff. It was a strategic replacement of the angelic human heritage, right? Anunnaki Galactic Federation continued to chip away invasions after this. And why was all this? Its purpose is to access the Earth, hollow Earth Amentic stargates, right? And destroy Gate 2. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but it's basically to cut off founder protection at the universal level. Then, alright, if I show you it, then to exterminate, alright, exterminate angelic human races from the earth, alright? And once they get rid of, say, the codes and stuff, the code holders, the natural hollow earth guardians and stuff, and got that all locked down on the surface, the intent is to return the chosen ones, to power up the reverse grid matrix into the earth to access the earth hollow earth shields. Alright, so the chosen ones will encourage people to use the hollow earth, the reverse grid, alright, to try and access the hollow earth axis. Alright, so I'll just show you this again. These are just some notes I took from the lectures I was watching. Alright, so it's just a lot of information to consider. Maybe some of it's inaccurate. Alright, so there's a second part to that as well. So I might show you a screenshot of this, alright, before I get into it. So what I know is Thoth was given access to one of the technology discs. There's 12 discs, and they go from 1 to 12, and the higher the number, the more data it contains, and number 12 is the best, alright, the most precious. Thoth was given access to number 11, right, to transcribe and to access, and what he did through that was gain the grid points of the 12 control rooms and 12 Stargate locations on the surface, sort of thing, alright. and this had always been sort of top secret sort of stuff. So he gave that to the negative species, and so what happens is those locations are known, right? So it's like a incarnation battleground, and they're where all the Hollow Earth sort of like Earth access codes that people are born into, and the mothers that have them and stuff. So it's like, from a control perspective, you know the locations to target and all the people around them. And so since Thoth did that a long time ago, it could be like 75,000 BC. I don't have the actual number right now. I was hoping to find it before I get this out, but just have this variable. A long time ago, Thoth, like most of these species do, when their back's against the wall and they know they're going to lose, they change sides, all right? And they're given like trust through compassion for the redeeming qualities. And he did this, all right? Just fucking totally betrayed the Hollow Earth Guardians yet again, all right? And set all this up for failure, okay? And so that was a big part of the downfall of where we're at, right? And the stepping down that went on. So if I just show you this, and you can read it if you want. It might be a bit hard to read, so I might do the screenshot now and give you a bit of time to see it. It's a bit hard to sort of show and read and stuff like that, right? So, because I gained these from a couple of the lectures, it was really ironic I found them, right? Very random. Okay, the planetary magnetic grid collapse that occurred at 3470 BC. It was a link between Babylon, right, where it happened, in Stonehenge, and there's an aspect of Earth in the Phantom Matrix, right? There's another Earth. So if you watch shows like Fringe and Counterpart, which are about another universe, sort of Earth, I think it's more relevant to this, alright? So there's like parallel sort of connection to another universe and another Earth, alright? And what's in the Phantom Matrix is Nibiru, alright? And Nibiru has a battle star Nibiru, which is an aspect of the planet that is the it's between Mars and Jupiter, alright? Mars and Saturn, sorry. Maldek, I think it's called, as the bird chirps. And that was captured in the orbit of Nibiru, and it's called Battlestar Nibiru. So it's ironic that Battlestar is there, alright? And so, in the Phantom Matrix, because like, the reason, like they say that Atlantis fell and all that sort of stuff, and I believe it's bigger than just one Atlantis. We're focusing on the more recent history here, alright? But I'm just trying to focus on the more recent, if 5,000 years is recent sort of thing, alright? Because this is, if you're here still, this is starting to get to the point of why I'm doing this one, alright? It's going to get pretty epic, alright? And as I get stuff coming through my left shoulder. This particular time set us up for what's going on now in a big way. Alright, there's a lot with the Luciferian covenant that started at 9560 BC. Alright, but it got down to this point where some really massive hits happened that set us up for the failure we're in. Okay, and so the reverse fire letter sequence distorted into Earth planetary shielding. Alright, so what it did, it reversed some of the natural grid to be reversed, which meant that it was feeding the Phantom Matrix to try and pull Earth into the Phantom Matrix. What I was getting about was, I know that there was within that 208,216 BC sort of era, there was a lot of control on the surface that was gained, and it was a gradual stepping down, and a lot of negative species were fighting each other. And I know from this teacher, one of the reptilian sort of aspects, are you going to chirp every time I teach? So yeah, there was an attack between two of them, and one of them beat the reptilians up so bad they had to go underneath the continent in the Pacific, I think, of in the Atlantic, of Atlantis, alright? And what happened is they used like the scalar technology to attack them, but they got it wrong, alright? And they got it so wrong they actually destroyed the continent, part of the continent, and sent it to the Phantom Matrix. So when they say, you know, like the continent fell and stuff, if you understand the Phantom Matrix and how that works, then a lot of it was like teleported sort of over to the negative universe sort of thing, and it's in that aspect over there, alright? And so when there's, my attitude is when there's like void space sort of talked about and we're trying to get them back, it's like, no, we don't, because they get, anything that goes over there is like the Borg, it gets assimilated. That's what the cube sort of thing is. It's like once you go over there, you're assimilated into that and you get fucked up from it. And that's where I was doing the minions, like the pink one and the yellow one and stuff. We do not want them back, because when they come back compromised. And there's been 250 billion years of effort to redeem all that shit, and it hasn't fucking worked, alright? And compassion has got us into this shit that's like the bushfire out of control metaphor that I said, alright? So a lot of stuff was done to our body, alright? So things like, so what I was getting is that the attack came from Nibiru on that side, and it percolated through from the Phantom Matrix Earth to our side as well. So it's coming from that angle and from this angle on in our universe as well, alright? And I've got images to show you after this, alright? But what this did, it was a major, it really distorted the DNA on the angelic humans and stuff, like mutations. It reduced the strands from say 12 or 24 or 48 to 4, right? It erased the memory, and this is a big thing, alright? There was sort of, you imagine some memories were left and some weren't, alright? And what was inserted was holographic information, alright? And this is where I'm getting to the Akashic records, was a a Nibiru holographic insert over to Earth, alright, that we actually tap into. And it, the Akashic records are a weaponized information insert over Earth, alright, that we actually tap into, that's distorting our true connection to the hollow Earth, like true spiritual teachings. That's the scale of war that we're in, a bit like the Metatron permeating through everything, right, at a very high dimensional level and stuff. It's the same sort of thing with information from my perspective. That's what I worked out over the weekend, and I sent this to a friend, a lady that I did a session for, that's had a massive, like, she's very, very amazing, and she was actually getting last week her side of it as well, and I gave it to her, and she was, a lot of it sort of confirmed what she was getting, because there is another name for it, and I'm not going to talk about it here, but I might speak to her, because I've vetted her, I've done a infinite potential healing on her, and it'll be safe for me to talk, right? So I might do a future to infinity and beyond with this new lady that you probably never heard of, that has access to all this stuff, right? It's really, really cool, okay? But I'll just get into this to finish this off so I can get into the next stuff. So it was a major angelic DNA, like major angelic human DNA mutilations, reduced strands, erased memory, and holographic inserts like Nibiru Akashic imprint were seeded into us. It blocked our Kundalini potential, alright? It blocked the pineal, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and the thyroid gland, and it distorted all that sort of stuff to actually reduce it from an 800 to 1,000 year lifetime to 80 years to meet, like, the mortality was weaponized against us, right? And so in the other one I talked about how the memory wipe at birth and all that sort of stuff. So you imagine our memories are wiped at birth, we're wiped on the surface, so no one has any memory, so we've lost all the teachings, alright? And that's where I said the effect on the body is tinnitus, because we've lost the abilities to tune into that high level frequency sort of stuff, right? And so half the DNA may be normal and half is mutilated, so we lost the language, And that's where this teacher says that Thoth and the Galactic Federation have said, oh, we gave you our languages. It's like they're the ones that created the loss to create us in a controlled state, that they gave us their version of language that they wanted us to have, all right? And that's where we've got what we are now in this box, all right? So if I go back to that box, the big box, like step down. So I'll just show you this quick. It's not to scale or anything, but you imagine we've gone from pretty big to not much. Like I said, a grain of sand versus the sun, alright? So this has just been constant grinding us down, weaponization, no peace, defending ourselves and just trying to have existences in connection with Earth and balancing and dealing with the stellar activation cycles that happen every 25,000 years. So we've been wiped, we've lost all our history, we've lost all our language, we've lost our ability to perceive the high level and all the technology that was in the natural DNA. Still got our codes and stuff, but the codes have been sorted, we've been industrial pillaged and all that sort of shit. And another skin suit with all the codes has been set up and used by the Illuminati sort of thing to control, okay? So if I show you this, I might do an overlay again with a screenshot, alright? So you can have a pause. But this is the next image. This is a demonstration of that, okay? So if you see that line across, it's a phantom matrix, alright? So there's Nibiru and the Battlestar Nibiru, Phantom Earth, and shit was sent through to it, to Stonehenge. It's a crystal sort of thing that sent through to the non-Phantom Earth, like our Earth on this side of this particular universe, right? And so that's one aspect of the attack, but the other one was the memory wipe and stuff, alright? So what happened was, my perspective, the Akashic Records was a holographic, like you imagine a backup, alright, of all the data from Nibiru, alright, and it was inserted into Earth, alright. The Akashic Records are a holographic insert to overlay Earth, and this teacher talks about it being a planetary radio body insert, alright. And so it was an overlay inserted between us and the natural hollow Earth sort of stellar activation cycle, guardian, like true spiritual teachings. So if we were that white, alright, we had no direction, this shit was inserted under us to totally sidetrack our truth, alright? And then what would happen, alright? What would happen is, say we've got gaps in our awareness and DNA, and so this Akashic overlay would percolate through into us, and we would take it on board and think it's our truth, alright? And say, the metaphor, say when I was listening to Andrew do the readings and stuff, and I mean, I would try and tune in, you know, I did so many of them and stuff, and I found it amazing, alright? I thought it was incredible how he could say stuff, and I could just feel the activation in people when they heard their dormant DNA truth talked about, right? But what I'm getting now, right, is it feels distorted. It never felt accurate. Like, you know, I did that diagram. I'll show you it now, alright? My attitude is, if it was this, it would be easy. Do you understand? You'd know it. You'd feel it. You could do it. And it wasn't. You know, I worked my ass off on that, and it was like fascinating, right? And I could be totally wrong. You can take it I'm polarized or I'm influenced and all sorts of fucking bullshit, alright? But I'm saying I got rid of the influences that allowed me to entertain it, alright? And I'm in the truth now, and I'm realizing the scale of the fucking information distortion, alright? To keep us sidetracked and unaware, alright? And this is the scale of the shit that's being done to us, alright? And this is where I was going at the start, is like, holy shit. How fucking, you know, like, we're just so puny, alright? How can we go against this shit? Alright? And so this is what I'm saying. Like, shit in the phantom zone, like the phantom matrix, is the void space. You got to flip things upside down. It's not positive, it's not good, alright? Even though it's been said to be good, you got to do the contrarian and see the other way, alright? So do contrarian, alright? And realize a lot isn't ideal. So the Babylon massacre was the wiping of us to set us up for the false teachings to sidetrack us from the true, pure, Hollow Earth Guardian, guarded, pure teachings that have been tried to be seeded on the planet for frickin' ever, literally. And those teachings have been hijacked and distorted, and it goes to the level of, like, you see now, alright, like when people were activated, their ancestors and the DNA lineages we're in probably lived through this, and they're looking for their truth and totally sidetracked and put onto a false fucking planet's truth to totally derail us from the SAC sort of stuff, right? So that's where I'm calling it sympathetic resonance to the falsehood, alright? Because it's actually planted in our DNA long ago that Thoth set up the Mayan calendar sort of bullshit to plan to line up to now to all be who he is, sort of thing. And it's just an aspect of a bigger oversoul, alright? How crazy is that? How fucking crazy is that's being done to us? Discern it. I could be wrong. I could be fucking totally wrong, alright? But this is what I've worked out. I've been in the trenches amongst it more than anyone else, alright? And I've been destroyed, attacked, and fucking undermined by agents and all that sort of shit, and I'm calling them out, and I know you have been that. I'm saying Mandy Lynn, Golden Eagle, is someone to contemplate with, alright? If you don't feel I am the one, okay? Crazy shit, hey? How are we meant to know this stuff, right? How lucky are we to actually even have this stuff? And I told you, like, I had this information for 10 years and I never looked at it. And that's where I know, like, I was on an undercover mission and it was never meant to be known until I came out the other side. If I lived through it, alright? To be here now, to be able to do this. That's where I feel like I'm safe because I got nothing fucking to lose, alright? So I'm just going to show you some more images. So this might be a bit hard, and that's why I drew the other one. But see, that's our natural state, alright? And that star is a really distorted aspect for the true pure teachings of stuff. And so we're in the embryo with Earth and all balanced, and this is a representation of our DNA, alright? And well, all the arrows around it are all the Metatron sort of permeating through us all sort of stuff. So even when things were good, there's a potential that frequency was coming through us and setting our DNA up for it, alright? So then there was this 3470 BC wipe, alright? And we didn't know what the fuck was going on, alright? So our DNA was smashed. Metatron frequencies are permeating through everything and stuff, and so we were quite vulnerable. We lost our connection. We didn't even know what fucking, like, the pure teachings were and stuff like that. Okay, so we didn't know what was going on. We were limited. We lost all our abilities in our body and stuff, and then the Akashic records were inserted to block us from the true teachings. Okay, while the Metatron frequencies are all permeating through us. Okay, so what we did, we had this gravitation to something. We didn't even know what was what. We had no direction, no GPS, because we'd lost all our memory and all that, and our higher senses. So we were super vulnerable to a foreign planet, holographic insert, fucking influence. So if you have no even like awareness of the subtleties of what truth and falsehood is, you might just take something on. It's a bit like what Bruce Lipton says about this first 7 years of birth. It's like we're in sponge mode, alright? And so our DNA is like manipulated. The Metatron frequencies are permeating through. We're disconnected from like the true teachings. Akashic record is governing us. And then we're puppetable, alright? Totally puppetable and manipulated, alright? So this is what I'm saying. This is all done, and we've had 5,000 years of this shit, alright? So that was all setting up for the recent stellar activation cycle. So if I go back to the big overall one, right? So this is the big overall one with that attack that stepped us down. We lost Hollow Earth, the foundation being protection and all that sort of stuff. So we're vulnerable. The recent 25,000 years and the 9,000 years and the 3,700 years. And then there's that bubbling up of the, despite all that, there was always going to be a innate bubbling up because of our soul trying to permeate through the body and the limit of this reality with the memory wipe, the wiping at birthing, the false teachings and all that sort of shit. Still relentless. We're still going to bubble up, right? So if I show you another image. So this is one I showed earlier, right? So that's why I was talking about, it's a bit windy, as the wind blows. Thank you, elements. Enough. So this is what I was saying, the sympathetic resonance to the falsehood, alright? So the vast majority was set up for failure, for all the false aspects and stuff and the false teachers, and they all probably mean well. But then there's this tiny, tiny volume that are at, like, despite all that, despite the sheer few that still even made it to this, and false teachers, weaponized, like the Galactic Federation and all that sort of shit, the Mirror, the Anunnaki, the Draco, the reptilians and all that fucking shit, like, and each of these species, like, have 20 different factions, alright? So I'm not, all you positive aspects that are there, I apologize to you and I offered my apology up front. We need to know that there are these out there, so that's why I'm doing it. And so there's this tiny, tiny fraction. And so I'm saying, like, the Galactic Special Forces were in line in it, but I was undercover, and I was even asleep in my wake, alright? So I'm going to show you another diagram. So I just did it in a bit more detail, alright? So, yeah, there's, like, channeling, like, I know my spiritual teacher was into that and stuff, and, like, UFO and, galactic confederations. I'm saying all those political organizations need massive fucking discernment, alright? And I did a warning, and Max, go to fucking town, dude, alright? Let it rip. Hit them hard. Because this is, like, no time to fuck around, alright? There was, like, the consciousness development and the Akasha Bulla fucking shit crap, okay? And the 2012, like, Mayan calendar stuff, which Thoth seeded, like, long ago to set us up, and then climate sort of bullshit as well. And so, and I'll get into the climate stuff in a sec, as the wind goes crazy. Thank you. So yeah, then I've got this tiny little faction down there, the Earth Guardians, like, stellar activation cycle, that was still able to anchor that despite all this sort of epic, like, glacier avalanche sort of scala shit against that, alright? So yeah, anything, the way I see it, like, those images I had last time, anything from basically last 12,000 years need to be a massive question, okay? And all this stuff isn't very pleasant, okay? And that's where I was doing the contrarian view, like, opposite it. What is the opposite? See how it feels, you know? And so part of my questioning was, like, why do people gravitate to this shit? Why do people seem to do well and they talk shit and all that sort of stuff? Well, it's that sympathetic resonance to the falsehood because it comes through our DNA. It was seeded, it was set up thousands of years ago to be a match to now. And so if you are authentic and truthful and you wonder why you're not succeeding and you get polarized against, you've got to understand the fucking scala shit against that. So I'm hoping you get to that, in that, if you actually manage to find me and see this with all the fucking resistance and shit going on. And it's been going on quite a long time and stuff. I mentioned the climate change sort of stuff. What I realized, okay, I've been watching, like, the 2009 series, alright? And in a part of that, there's a resistance group in that actually do this thing and destroy like the queen and her offspring. She was breeding like warriors, and they destroy them and prevent like the soldiers from being birthed, which put off a lot of stuff for a while, and she let it rip. And part of the invasion plan was to make this red sky thing, right? And I might try and do some images and stuff overlaying this. The reason why I'm saying that is the red sky, right? It rained. Like, it was red sky for a few days, right? And the people just went nuts, and then all of a sudden it rained. And she said it was a gift for humanity and stuff, but what it was putting high levels of potassium into the soil and into the people to terraform them to ready for, like, the women for breeding, alright? So what I worked out, alright, and I might put the Fletcher Prouty clip that I've used in the past about how the Rockefellers went and set up the fossil fuel concept, alright? So if I do that, I'll do it now, quick.
You mentioned in one of your last talks that petroleum wasn't what we thought it was, that it wasn't a fossil fuel, that it didn't come from fossil animals.
Yeah.
Is it just a mineral? Is it a mineral like any other mineral? Is that how it what would you say? What's the origin of
You see,
petroleum?
when they first found petroleum, because they were beginning to make motors and needed on axles of wheels on railroad trains and all that sort of thing, and remember, trains started in the beginning of the 19th century, then oil went from just a lubricant to a fuel, and it made it valuable. And Rockefeller happened to be the smartest man in the business at the time, but he made most of his money, or much of it, off the transport of the petroleum as well as selling it. But one thing they realized was, because oil is putting a price on oil is like putting a price on a pail of water. You know, no initial cost. It's in the ground, and in those days they were, some of it, almost what you'd call surface mining the oil. They didn't go down deep. So in order to get the price up, they hit on the idea that they would have to make it appear to be scarce. That after we take the next few barrels out, we're probably going to have to close as well. You know, that kind of thing. Well, a very fortuitous event. In 1892, there was a convention in Geneva of scientists to determine what organic substances are. Well, the definition of organic is a substance with hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. And so it's usually a living substance, a tree. You analyze a dead tree, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, and grass and so on, living things. Animals, we are hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So at this Geneva Convention, Rockefeller took advantage of sending some scientists over who said, oil, petroleum, is hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Therefore, it must be derived from the spoiling, the rotting of formerly living matter. And playing the game properly, when this scientific convention was over, they defined oil as the residue from formerly living matter. Well, that makes it a fossil fuel. I don't know why they decided to use the word fossil, but it says formerly living matter is fossil. Well, of course, today, and another thing we should know is that there has never been a fossil, a real fossil, found below 16,000 feet. And you can't argue at 16,000 as a level line, because someplace the ground sinks and so on. But 16 is what the scientists say, 16,000. We mine oil, or we drill for oil, at 30,000, 33,000, 28,000 every day of the week. So right there we rule it out that it isn't fossil fuel. It's called fossil fuel for the minds of the public to feel that it is an asset that is running out, being depleted. We talk about depletion allowance, which is a lot of, you know, and actually if you know the world's oil supply, you know that it is not going to run out for an awfully long time. It is the second most prevalent liquid on Earth. And we haven't begun to dig. Well, with all that background, you see, the people in charge of the petroleum business, for perfectly reasonable business things, just like any other man in a business, wants to keep his price as high as he can get away with. And the way to do is just say, well, there's no more. The last barrel is going to cost $1,000, and then it's all done. And they preach that stuff. What bothers me is that in geology books, it's in there. The geologists say it's a fossil fuel. They've been bought. I mean, I went to a 4-year federal staff energy seminar run by the government of the United States during the so-called energy crisis. I was the participant that represented the railroad industry. The airline industry was there. Every AA, administrative assistant of senators and congressmen, was there. The CIA was there. The Defense Department was there. The State Department was there. Sometimes sitting right in front of me in the row would be Henry Kissinger with his friend, the head of Department of Defense. It's too bad I can't put the names with them. But anyway, people like that, top men in the government, sitting there listening to the federal staff energy seminar. Well, what this was doing is for 4 years, they were teaching a propaganda line to the leading people in this country, and therefore to the leading people in the world, when you include the Kissinger and Schlesinger, among others. And the object of it was, as Kissinger used in his own terms when it was time for him to speak, to create a world price for oil. In other words, not 30 cents a gallon here and 90 cents a gallon there, but let's get a world price. That's their goal, and they're trying to do that for wheat and everything else. We don't realize what the controls are, whether it's oil or some of these other things. Almost everything today is being categorized at the highest price they can possibly make it go. And so calling petroleum a fossil fuel is the basis for this system with respect to petroleum. And I don't know if the name Arthur Kantrowitz rings any bell. Arthur Kantrowitz is the head of the Kantrowitz Labs set up by the Avco company near Boston, scientific laboratories. And a great man in the scientific world. And Kantrowitz and I were sitting at a table at this seminar once, and the table happened to be all young college grad, PhD geologists. And so just to get a conversation started, I turned to Kantrowitz and I said, Arthur, what do you think about this foolishness of these speakers talking about fossil fuel? And it was kind of put up. He started laughing. He said, you know, that gets me. He says, I don't have a geology degree, but he had 1,000 other degrees. And he said, I don't understand. He said, you'd think that these heads, these other fellows at the table, we did it on purpose, start listening, you know. And he asked, he said, are you gentlemen, he says, you're here at the meeting, are you gentlemen by any chance geologists? And one fellow, yes, I am. And the other one, yeah. He said, well, why don't you tell me? He said, why is oil, you know, and he went on like that. We brought the house down because nobody could argue with Kantrowitz. He like Einstein. People aren't going to, and he told them right there, he said, just drop it. But it's in all the books and in all the papers. But it started from that strange meeting in 1892, a scientific convention. I have a big, thick scientific encyclopedia put out by the Divan Ostrin Company that's about 15 years old now, but it has the whole story of the conference. It doesn't have the Rockefeller part, but it has the whole story of how they straightened out organic chemicals and how it was all figured, and they've got petroleum right in there.
Amazing. Amazing. So
these aren't accidental things, you see. There's a dollar sign behind almost everything.
yeah, okay.
So Fletcher Prouty was Colonel X in the Oliver Stone movie, like JFK, like the insider that was feeding information, like he was played by Keith Donald Sutherland. It was really cool, but he's a real life like insider. And what I'm getting about the whole fucking climate change shit, and I even got this weekend just listening to something, it's like, oh my fucking god, like one of the species or the skin suits, alright, that's doing the invasion, that's like an aim for the invasion, alright, it can't handle the high levels of CO2 in our environment. So the whole green movement is for the terraforming bullshit, potentially. Can you imagine that, right? All the bullshit that people are going through, all the changing over and all the technology change and all the suffering in the cold and all that sort of shit and all the inefficiencies of the green movement and that and all the climate change and like carbon dioxide, like greenhouse effect and all this sort of bullshit teachings of the environment are part of us buying into the setup for the fucking like colonization sort of shit potentially of the invasion that we're in, alright? That's been going on for a very, very long time. How fucking crazy is that? You think that, contemplate that, alright? So I'm just going to go back to the last image and round it out now, alright? Like I said, I'm just going to round it out and I'll show you the other image before I show the last one, alright? So I showed this and it's like pretty freaking epic. The scales of shit, the technology and the wisdom to be able to do this sort of thing to us and how vulnerable we are. And of course it was going to work, alright? Like most of us are good people. We're not benefiting from the suffering of others, alright? We're not kundalini harvesting beings to maintain, alright? That's where I said the immortal and eternal, alright? We're not vampires that need the nourishment of others or planets and stuff to feed us and maintain our existence because we don't want to die. We don't want to let go of what we've gained. We don't want to admit to compromise and suffering that we cause in order to like exist when we probably shouldn't, okay? So it's a bit ominous and all that and all that sort of shit, alright? And I get it. And it's not pleasant to contemplate. And I'll show you the one last diagram, alright, before I finish the conclusion, okay? So this is the one I showed, the stepping down, and we're like this tiny little fucking square and shit. We've got these like multi-dimensional fucking massive collective beings that have been fucking doing negative shit for hundreds of billions of years, alright? When a great mistake was made, alright? And so the potential is, alright, that fucking we are fucked. We are in so much trouble. What can we do, alright? And I told my ally Captain Marvel this, and it was like, this is what I think, alright? This is what I think about this shit, and this is what I'm sending a message to. And it's like, how fucking shit are you at invasion if you need to do all this fucking shit and it hasn't worked? How fucking crap are you at planetary invasions? You must have got a fucking F in your University of fucking Invasions because you are fucking so shit, okay? All that shit you need to do hasn't fucking worked. We are here, we're aware. And I joked to her, I said, maybe we should just fucking put our arms behind our backs for one day a week to give them help because they need help because they're so fucking shit at it, alright? Maybe we need to do John Cleese funny walks for a day, like from Monty Python's, and like give them a head start because it's fucking dumb. Like, if we can get to this and understand this, alright, in spite of all that shit, in spite of all the influences, in spite of all the fucking like control and the epic scales of shit, and it still haven't worked, it's game over. Like, you're not gonna fucking get it. If you need to reduce us to this, and it's still not enough, it's still fucking not enough. It's just like, why do we fear? Alright? And so that's what I'm inviting you to contemplate. That's how I feel about this shit. That's why I'm not scared. Like, we've all been through a lot of shit, alright, just to get here. If you're like a Hollow Earth Guardian that has endured a lot of shit, and that's where I was like, at the start I was aggressive and all the shit and the like the infiltrators and the agents and all that bullshit. I'm compassionate because of all that I've just said, and I get it. And I am like, I've had a lot of violations recently, and in spite of all the effort and all the investment in people and all the free fucking healings and shit, you're still not getting it because you're not putting the effort in. Alright, and I've given all the fucking stuff away for free as well. And it's like, that's why I've got this high level vetting going on. I've done me. I've explored all the other angles, and it's like, fuck, probably need to triple my prices, alright? Because like, it seems like people want to mortgage, like, run to this shit and mortgage their fucking house and not get anywhere, than rather, like, do five. Who on the fucking planet does 5-hour ceilings? I'm fucking nuts, alright? So I'm crazy in a crazy world, so I'm double negative. So it works out to be a positive, alright? But yeah, I just, like, it's not about me or anything like this. I feel very fortunate to be able to even contemplate this stuff, and greatly appreciate anyone that can get through it. And if you've managed to just find me and this is the first ever video you've found, it's like, well done. Like, maybe there's a big beacon on this, and I've got a lot of allies in the unseen, and I know I do, that want this out there. So this has actually been really, really long. I might have broken it into two. So I thank you for finding me. I thank you for finding this. I hope you gain something from it. This is not directed to anyone or anything. We're all players and all this to sort of work something out. Don't go Mr. Robot. Don't buy into that. Don't buy into that feeding the Phantom Matrix to try and take Earth into the Armageddon, the Phantom Matrix, alright? That's where Armageddon, the Hell Realm is, alright? The whole thing about Armageddon is the revealing of the truth, and I can appreciate that, but I think it's actually more relative to the Phantom Matrix, which no one's ever talked about, alright, but this one teacher, alright? So just measure me as someone that's been in the field, and everything has had a purpose to get to now, and I've got in the trenches, like, seeing it all happen, and on a scale that very few people have. I laugh at me because it's like, oh, that's why I was doing that. Like I said, the Galactic Special Forces Part 5 in the Orion star system, I'm pretty sure it's related to the Stargates, right? And we're called and being called to do a lot of that shit. And I could be wrong about stuff, and it's cool. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, you know? But I'm standing up and talking my truth here, and I've got a lot of protection this time, so I didn't get fucked up. It's epic, alright? And you're going to have to find your willpower to get through it and anchor it and realize maybe you've been here and one of the few that might see it, because a lot of my allies have fucking, like, been polarized and seeing me as wrong. So it's like, I've had this Jason Bourne where everyone turns away and there's an assassination going on sort of thing, that's happened many times. And, you know, maybe I won't live too long because I push the things, but I know I've got a lot of support. I'm only joking there. I don't think I'm going to get out of this place fucking anytime easily or soon, alright? So I'm in it for the long haul. I'm committed, and I love expanding and finding out this truth. And if you've gained something from it, and it's been a codex for unlocking a lot of shit in you, I'm putting everything out there in it, and you're seeing yourself differently, and you're having the courage to see the mistakes you made and efforts to try and fuck me up and shit. Like I've always said, there's something bigger on the fucking, like, I'm focused on the bigger shit, alright? And the plan is still intact. Nothing has changed, alright? So it's got time to be strong and time to be fearless and go into the unknown, guys. Go into your potential. I'll leave it here. It's pretty long. So lots of love. Thanks for finding me, and see you next time. Andre out. Hello. I hope you enjoyed that. So, a lot there, right? Maybe you feel like a different person. Maybe you're totally shut off to it and you're calling out my bullshit and that's all cool. Discern the shit out of me, I said, alright? And apologies for a lot of the swearing. I did a lot during this, but I hope you see the potency of how crazy it is, alright? My attitude, we were never meant to find this out, alright? And that's where I went through all the shit I went through, and the metaphor I said with the Alive movie, and had a reset, so to speak, and like I shared in the previous release, I had some unpacking and some clearing of me to do to get clear, and I did the Dreamtime clearing in the Truth Frequency video in about June 2020 that allowed me to get a lot of me back to unpack a lot of stuff. So like I said at the start, just see the massiveness of the falsehood construct to keep us literally in the box, the Metatron box, right? But just see how potent and how powerful and the purity of the truth and the understanding, if you consider this to be the truth. Maybe I'll expand it a lot more in the future. Maybe it's very basic. Maybe it's inaccurate, all right? But just allow yourself to contemplate that this sort of shit has been done and we're just not being offered it, all right? And so when you get the truth, the enormity of the falsehood is just invalid, all right? And so give yourself permission to unlock all the shit that's been imposed on you through all the lineages. Like I said, the Rogue One sort of metaphor at the start, all right, just to get to here. We each have the power of what we contemplate and allow into our awareness to have an effect on our body and our skin. So we, in spite of everything that may be against us, it's still a pure free will environment that we can choose to do whatever we want, all right? So see what happens, all right? Maybe you need to really go and revisit this series a few times to get the layers, all right? I've talked about consciousness Tetris in the past. If you're purely just going to watch this stuff on a mobile phone and not in a, a focused state, like committing to your expansion, like you're probably not going to get it. But maybe separate watching this stuff on the phone to a computer or a PC or a like a TV. Like set yourself a study, all right? Dedicate to that, okay? But see how I use the metaphor of the Stranger Things upside down. Perhaps we have been put in an upside down, but it's not a reality. It's all the false shit in our DNA. And I liken all that stuff potentially inserted into us, like a altered carbon envoy false holographic construct where potentially a lot of the shit that's been inserted in us is nothing to do with us, all right? The memories and the shit that is dominating our courage and stuff, so we have a lot of doubt and uncertainty of doing things, like we might not want to step up, we're fearful, and that could be all a false holographic. Like you imagine, like you watch Altered Carbon, the first series particularly, where he was in a torture realm. Imagine all the fucking deaths that could have been inserted into you in a unactivated way, but they're in your subconscious because you have access to all your history, and it's not yours, but you're accommodating it because this false bullshit has been inserted to you, alright? You can shed all that fucking shit, alright? You can choose to not accommodate it. Like, the memories have got to have some sort of agreement, like handshake, like encryption. There's a handshake on each end sort of thing. So you can set the fucking bar high on what you accept, right? It's like, that's not mine. You can give yourself permission to let stuff go. You don't have to innately integrate everything that you think is there, or even the behavioral patterns and all that sort of stuff, just think about all the hell realms. You could have been like prostitution sort of shit inserted into you, so you accommodate fucking like sexual like promiscuity and stuff like that. That's not who you are, alright? like I said, so just give yourself to unshackle the false holographic inserts, alright? Give yourself permission. You are the driver of your body. You are the contract holder of it, alright? And another thing that I went for a walk my day and stuff, and potentially we're being allowed to contemplate that sort of like human DNA is the mutt of the universe, and all these codes are all the codes of all the species and all that, and that could be accurate. My attitude, alright, is that the pure indigos are a gestation of the earth for the codes of to have control for the control rooms and the stargates, and the pure indigos are from this earth, right? And so a lot of that holographic insert sort of bullshit is to cloak the purity of your origin and your DNA lineages and stuff like that with false memories and all sorts of bullshit to like procreate the concept in yourself that you aren't special and you aren't who you are, alright? And we give ourselves away to that. So my attitude is a lot of the galactic mafia and stuff are trying to are targeting those, alright, with the codes and stuff and trading them off world because they can work off world. And so the mutt sort of insert is these invasion forces that have gained control over the surface that dilute that purity of who the pure teaching sort of align with Mother Earth and the true records, which perhaps in a future recording will be related to that with someone that actually has them and has all the terminology and stuff, alright? So when you hear it, alright, and even what I'm saying now is you can just penetrate the color bullshit records and go true to your truth, alright? You don't need to accommodate all that false bullshit, alright? So again, this might unpack a lot, alright? A lot of you are probably going to go light up, and some monitors of highly conscious beings are going to have some freaking bad days when they hear this, alright? It's like the turning of the tide. Like I said, the universal El Alamein are pushing this shit back, and I think that's probably what we're meant to do, alright? That's what everything is fearful of, because they think they've gotten it, but the invasion politics are all designed to limit us, alright? To say, I have no problem if someone wants to explore a vegan path and stuff, but using a political imposition because of a false teaching relative to invasion politics, alright? To me, that's trying to limit the potential of the DNA and the body of a lot of people that should probably consume stuff, right? And you have to, like I did the video on misconception of death and therefore existence itself, you have to understand the soul development process is still going on. So souls are incarnated as animals and stuff. Their whole purpose might be to actually facilitate us to do galactic special forces. And you imagine the soul credit they get for like having that contract like unfold, right? It's part of their purpose on another level. So you have to have a different relationship to death, alright? That's the thing. It's very, very important. Don't go by anything that's in this box, in this reality, alright? Stuff that's imposed on us, and like from a political sort of aim and stuff, you really discern that. So yeah, just don't feel guilty about some outside force that wants you to do something that's not in alignment with your potential, alright? Just trust that you're so precious that other species may actually frickin' want that, because you're the one that's going to make the difference, alright? So honor you and allow, like I've included many of the kung fu clips about honor yourself first and allow others to honor themselves and all that, and respect other people's choices. Appreciate why someone might do it. Like, the context is epic, and because if you're aligned to this, just see what I've said about the metaphor of the whole spiritual, even the spiritual teachings are so against this sort of stuff, alright? You might get a lot of polarity. See polarity as confirmation, alright? Because they're being potentially hijacked with false teachings and stuff, and they're not willing to shed them to accommodate stuff, alright? So this is another thing, alright? So right now in the world there's a lot of holding the feet to the fire of a lot of the political leaders and stuff like that for what's been implemented into society, alright? Which I'm saying is invasion politics, alright? Okay? And people don't even contemplate that there could be something going on relative to that. I could be wrong, alright? But just contemplate that, alright? That's the missing link. It's invasion politics, alright? So we're holding all these leaders account to what they're doing. Why aren't we holding the spiritual community to account to where we're at, alright? So maybe do some discernment and tracking back and, you know, exploring all sorts of people and all sorts of organizations aligned to sort of things like the galactic political organizations that have vested interests, and they're probably responsible for the mafia aspects, alright? Where they're presenting themselves as something, but they're doing misguided shit behind the scenes, alright? Why are we in fear of offending them, right? Why do we want to accommodate their hierarchical order and see them as the apex of stuff? Everyone wants to be the apex of their own view, but and that's all cool, but like I say, I'm holographic. I'm like a lines, alright, like a lattice, alright? And we've all got components in us and stuff like that, but I'm just saying maybe you're going to get a lot of unpacking, like I said, with the galactic mutt sort of stuff, and you're going to get the codex of all that's going on, and you've actually probably got the codex in you if you give yourself the chance to open up to what is truth and what is falsehood and realize the scale of things. So yeah, I just want to invite that, alright? Don't see people as special and stuff, and just track back what they've said and who they've been aligned with and what they've said, and when they flake and they play dumb, like they go Sergeant Schultz, alright? I might include the Sergeant Schultz. He's like, I know nothing, and they play dumb, and their voice squeaks because they're talking from their nasal stuff because they're trying to disarm you.
What is he doing in the uniform, General Hogan, please? Oh, you went too far. I must report this. It would be worth my life if I do not report this.
It's only until tomorrow, and he's going to take it off again. After he steals the tank.
Oh?
From the Panzer Division.
Oh?
And brings it here into the barracks.
Oh, I see nothing. I was not here. I did not even get up this morning.
Like, watch their evasiveness and transparency and stuff, and you can only play dumb so many times, right? Maybe tune into the soul species of who they are and stuff, and they're part of the whole agenda, and that's cool. It's a free world universe, and a lot of them might be trying to break free of their controllers and stuff, and they don't agree to their thing, and they're all a victim of that wiping as well, alright? Yeah, the distortion of our history and stuff, and everyone that might be against it is pretty much, to me, a consistent variable through everything. So I use Miyamoto Musashi a lot, the biggest badass like samurai, and he did a lot of destruction and stuff, but he went through all the journey and he lived to 60 odd, and most samurais lived to early 20s and they died off early. He went through all the trenches and did a lot of bad, and he came out the other end of having this profound sort of teachings and stuff, like the Book of Five Rings and that. So there can be a lot of purposes that you don't understand. So the way I always do is I just step back, and I, like a lot of the bad teachers and stuff, they might have nuggets of truth that might be the codex of unlocking a lot. So yeah, I'm just offering some perspectives to contemplate, because we get to defend Earth and the false grid sort of shit, alright? Like, it's not allowed anymore, alright? And trust me, like, when I do my Earth pranic healings, and I might be doing it on the eve of this release to clobber a lot of shit. Like, I won't be fucking taking any prisoners. Like, it'll be eviction notices and banishment to the Phantom Matrix, alright? Returning to sender sort of shit. Like, a one-way pass, do not collect $200 pass go, banishment, one-way ticket to the fucking Phantom Matrix, alright? Because it's been 250 freaking billion years, alright? I think time has come, alright? Like, if we want this wildfire of bullshit to take over and just cause more destruction, when it's all clear, there'll be something else, another expression of experience that will go on for eternity. But this whole lesson is sort of done to me, right? And it's got to be some beings that make tough decisions for the right reasons, and that's where like big scale politics and stuff is a bit grey, because light and love and clueless doesn't work, alright? So I'll just round this out because it's going to be a long release. I thank you for finding me. I thank you for even being willing to contemplate some of the real big calls I make here. I also feel that if you're here, then you probably got alignment to the stuff I've said, because you look how few and how little interest I get. And most of my allies and friends and people I know, they have no interest in what I do. Alright, I have some really amazing people that have been extremely generous to me and give me a lot more than what I charge and stuff. So you guys, I really appreciate you. You're very precious. Don't let yourself get compromised, because you understand energy exchange and stuff like that. You've also probably done enough, so you don't need to do too much more. Yeah, I think things are very big, right? I don't entirely trust everything that's going on. I'm calling out Mr. Robot, like anarchy and stuff. I feel if people were going to heal and resolve all their shit and track it all back, none of this drop down like pyramid stuff would even have an effect, alright? So it is what it is. I advise you to choose your path, and I've made my recommendations a lot, alright? So thank you for this. Thank you for the courage to explore and even contemplate this stuff. Give yourself the freedom to unshackle yourself from the false paradigm. Like, decrypt your protected codes and your dormant memory DNA. Shed all the false shit, all the false holographic inserts. Realize that epic nature and scale of stuff was needed just to stop you from being your truth, and how easy and effortless it can be. So I hope you welcome the new you, the true you that's probably you've been waiting for. And if this is the catalyst for that, I appreciate it. And until next time, guys, lots of love. Andre out. We can do this.
Take my hand and fly away with me, over mountains and seas, far away from the pain, to a place where we're all free, as we fly together, you and me. We will build a new world, still believing in love. I know that we will be build a new world, still believing in love. I know
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.